Welcome to the Faster, Easier, Better show. This podcast is short, fun, and jam-packed with good ideas that you can start using right away.
Welcome to another episode. I'm your co-host, Ellen, and today I want to talk about energy leaks. Now, there's probably a term you haven't heard a lot about, so let's discuss it. Last month, I was giving a presentation to a company on managing your energy instead of your time. And one of the things that really stood out is the energy leaks that show up every day and how we can deal with them. Now, you probably don't think a lot about where your energy leaks out. Now, think about your house right now. It's winter. If you don't have a good seal on your windows or your door, heat escapes. You're paying to heat the outdoors, as my father used to say. That happens to us too, because when the energy goes in your house, you got to turn the heater up. You got to get more heat in there, and you use up more energy. As for us, when we give up energy, when things leak out, when we're giving things away that we shouldn't, we are energy leakers. And we don't want to be that. Nobody wants to be an energy leaker. And one of the biggest things that we encounter during our day that becomes an energy leak is transitions. You know what a transition is. You're going along and you're working on something and you finish that. Let's say you just finish a meeting. Boom, that's done. Now you have a transition time. Do you go and immediately start working on the next thing? Or do you spend some time thinking about what comes next? And then perhaps, check the email. Maybe you play a game. Maybe you just scroll through social media. All of a sudden, you're not being productive. You're not moving on to that next thing. That transitionary time has become a time that takes your energy away. I like to think of it as standing on one side of a big gorge. You could think of the Roadrunner, and they're on one side, he's on one side, and the coyote's on the other, and there's this big gorge in between. That gorge is a transition. You want to go from the one side to the other side. You need to build a better bridge. That better bridge is going to make that transition time shorter. You're not going to leak as much energy, and you're going to be more productive. So that's all well and good, but how do you do that? Well, I'd like to offer you today 3 ideas to make your transitions better. So the first one is to stop in the middle of what you were doing. Now, I know that might sound kind of odd. I'm going to stop, but yes, you are. So let's say you're working on a project, like, okay, I'm writing a report. And instead of getting to the end of a section, end of a page, end of a thought, I stop in the middle. So if I'm doing bullet points, I stop in the middle of one of the bullet points when it's time to leave the office or go to a meeting or, maybe just go to lunch. I just stop there. So when I come back, that transition is much easier because I know I need to fill in the rest of that bullet point, which then will set my mind onto what comes next. I'll be able to do the next bullet point and the next bullet point. This all ties in with the second idea, which is keeping your work out. So let's say I stopped in the middle of an idea. I stopped in the middle of a paragraph, and I then would take a Post-it note and put it next to where I stopped and maybe jot down my thoughts about what comes next. And then I would leave that all out on my desk so that when I came back to my desk, a transitionary time, I would see what needs to happen, what I need to do. I have some thoughts there. I can just jump in and keep going. No need to check social media. No need to check email. I know right away what I'm going to do. If you can leave your work out in that manner so that when you come in, it is right there, it's going to be so much easier to make that transition happen. One of my clients was having trouble with a grant she was writing. And one of her problems was, every time she finished working on it, she would shut the folder, the binder, and put it back on the shelf. And then when she would come back to work on it, she had to get the binder down. She had to find where she was, had to think about what came next. And she would put it off because it was a lot. She didn't have a good bridge to get her from where she was to really jumping in on the grant. So now what'd she do? She found a space where she could leave it out, open, Post-it note where she stopped in the middle of an idea so that she could just, at a moment's notice, jump in and start working on it. She built a better bridge. The third thing you can do is know your first three. So what this means is when you stop, when, let's say you go to lunch, end the day, go to a meeting, before you leave your desk or wherever you work, you take a Post-it note and write down the first three things you're going to do when you come back. I do this every day when I go to lunch. I write down the first three things that have to happen when I come back. And the key here is, I think you probably figured this out, the key is to make these smaller tasks. You just have to do something small. Maybe I respond to this email and then I write a headline or I jot some ideas down for a presentation. But I have those three simple things to get done. By having them there, I know when I sit down what comes next. I don't have to waste time coming up with ideas of, I could do this, I could do this. No, I know immediately what my first three things are to do. So when it comes to transitions, those energy leeches, energy drainers of your day, try to build a better bridge. Transition from one thing to another thing by stopping in the middle of what you're doing, keeping your workout, and writing down your first three. They're all going to help you have a better bridge, eliminate wasted time between transitions, and get on with your day. Thanks for being here. Be sure and be with us again next week for another episode.